Hey guys, I hope that you guys are doing amazing wherever you are in the world. My name is Boom Shikha and I welcome you to my channel. I'm so grateful that you guys are watching, subscribing, and commenting on my channel. I really appreciate the support. In this video, I wanted to speak to you guys about INFJ children and how I believe, from what I've observed, that INFJ children are extremely independent and have this sort of inner strength to them from a very young age on. For example, in my own life, I demonstrated this several times. Whenever my family moved from place to place, we would have to go to a new school. And instead of having my parents guide me to the new school, take me to my new class, and do all of that, even when I was very young, I would go to my school myself. I'd catch the school bus myself. I'd figure out where it was. I'd go to the school bus. I'd catch it. I'd go to my class myself. I'd find it myself. I'd ask a bunch of people. I'd be like, oh, where is this? Where is that? And then I'd find the class myself, and then I'd take a seat on my own, and I would do all of it by myself. And this was when I was maybe 10, 12, 15, whenever it was, I would just do it on my own from a very young age, as soon as we started moving around a lot. I think the first time we moved to a new school was when I was 6, and then I was 8, and then I was 12. We moved around a lot, as you can tell. But that was normal to me. I didn't actually even imagine or think that I should ask my parents to take me to school. It didn't even occur to me that that's something that as a child I should ask my parents, oh, can you take me to school? Now, of course, in university, it was commonplace. A lot of people would be like, oh yeah, I'm going to school by myself, and my parents didn't even do anything for me. I did all my application myself, and that makes sense. And when you're at a university age, by that time you kind of imagine that you can take care of yourself. But this was happening to me when I was 8, 10, 12 years old. And that in itself, when I think about it now and I look back upon my life, I think to myself, how did I do it? I mean, how did a child like me go to school by myself? And it wasn't just me. I would have to take care of my siblings as well, right? So my sister would come with me because we went to school where it was girls only and boys only. So my brother went on his own, which in itself is also a great thing. But my sister would come with me, and so I'd have to take her to her class, make sure she sat in a proper spot, make sure that when we were in the bus that she wasn't standing. So I'd always have to fight with someone to get her a seat. I'm like, she's young and she can't stand. Can you give her a seat? And so there was a lot of interesting things going on in my life when I was a child that now that I think about it, I think are unusual. Like I'm doing things that require a lot of inner strength and a lot of independence that perhaps were not weren't typical for children that age. Not only that, I had this sort of independent streak in me where I wanted to do everything on my own, and I did not want to disturb or bother my parents too much. I had this incessant desire to make sure that I could do everything on my own without bothering my parents. That was also because my parents didn't like to be bothered. A lot of times they were busy and they were doing different things, and we were very rambunctious kids. I was a big rebel, so I did a lot of different things, and my parents were like, oh my god, what are we going to do with you? Maybe that's also one of the traits of an INFJ. We are rebellious children. We want to do things our own way. We want to do things in the way that makes sense to us. And if someone tells us to do something, we won't do it, because if it doesn't make sense to us, I'm not doing it just because you told me to do so, right? Now, of course, we have to kind of tamp down a lot of these tendencies because, in the schooling system, if you do too much of this, you're going to be kicked out. And in order to please our parents, who are paramount in our life at that point, we make sure that we follow the rules because we have to make sure that we kind of fit in as much as possible, just to please our parents. As soon as we don't have to do that anymore, we kind of run off and do our own thing, obviously. But I would get injured quite often because, as I said, I was a very rambunctious child. I'd be roaming around all over the place, climbing mountains, doing this and that. And I got hurt quite often. And every single time I got hurt, and sometimes I got hurt where I was bleeding profusely. For example, once I was kind of climbing a fence, and the fence had these really pointy edges to them on top, and I slipped. And one of the edges basically like a spear, and it just kind of plunged almost into my heart, right next to my heart. And so I still have a scar from that, actually. It's so funny. So it plunged into my heart, and obviously I pulled it out, and that in itself, I was like, okay, how did I do that? Obviously, I was in a lot of pain, but because I was bleeding a lot and I was bleeding onto the ground, my brother saw that and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I got hurt, but I don't want to tell my mother because she's sleeping and I don't want to bother her." And so he's like, "Are you insane? You have to tell the parents. You have to tell mom so we can take you to the hospital." I was like, no, it's okay. I can take care of this by myself. I'm just going to use my t-shirt and I'm going to wrap it around me, and soon the blood flow will stop. The body will take care of itself. And my brother's like, "No, you have to go to the hospital. I'm going to go tell mom." And I was like, "No, don't do it." He did, and she came in and she saw me, and I had to get stitches. I think 5 or 6 stitches. I don't remember now. But in that moment, I was thinking to myself, no, I don't need anyone else's help. I'm fine. I can do it on my own. I can take care of myself. I don't need anyone else to do it for me. If I need to go to the hospital, I can grab a taxi and go on my own. And I think at this point, I was 12 years old. I think I was around 12 years old. And so, again, as I think back upon that, I think to myself, what was wrong with me? And also, what was right with me? How did I end up becoming this kind of person? Another story, I was playing with this glass top table and I slipped and my knee hit the edge of the table and there was a huge gash. I mean, it was bleeding a lot. But because I didn't want to, again, bother my parents, bother my mom, she was sleeping. I think she was napping at the time. And she told me specifically, "Do not bother me, I'm sleeping." And so I was like, all right, cool. So I didn't want to make a mess with all the blood that was pouring down my knee. So I went to the washroom and I stood on top of the toilet seat so that all the blood could gush into the toilet bowl and therefore I wouldn't mess up the surroundings. Now, of course, again, as I think about it now, insanity, right? Obviously, I had to get stitches there as well. I still have a scar on that as well. I think I had to get like 6 or 7 stitches. But anyways, I think to that again, and I think, how did I become so powerful and how did I gain so much strength as a child so that I could do all these things? It actually, now that I think about it, it doesn't make any sense at all. But then, at that point in time, it seemed pretty normal to do these things because there was no way of comparison, I suppose, or it wasn't something that you spoke about with friends or family. You wouldn't be like, "Oh yeah, I got a gash today and I sat around and waited to deal with it by myself." That's not something that you have a conversation with. Also, social media wasn't that common, so we couldn't really compare our lives or our situations with other people around us, right? It wasn't as common as it is right now. So back then, it seemed normal to me. It seemed like everyone dealt with it in this manner. So when I would see a child, falling to the ground, getting a little scratch, and then crying and bawling and doing all that, throwing a tantrum or doing all that, I think to myself, what are you doing? It's just a scratch. Get up and go about your business. Stop being such a baby. Stop crying about it. Of course, that was not the nicest thing to say. But that's where INFJ children come into. That's how they deal with the world. They have this, as I said, inner strength. I think it comes from, I think a lot of it has to do with genetics probably, because I can't imagine that at 12 I'd already learned all of these coping mechanisms. Maybe a lot of it has to do with genetics. A lot of it also is built in our personality because we have to take care of our parents, we have to take care of our siblings. We had to be the stronger person a lot of times. And so we kind of learned these mechanisms as well. We learned these behaviors. And as children, as INFJ children, I found that a lot of what we do or what we did as children, we normalized, right? All of the stuff that I did, taking my siblings to school or roaming around with them all over the city without concerning myself with the fact that there were no parents around. I was always taking care of all the neighborhood kids as well. I was mainly the person that made sure that 10 or 15 of those kids would play together and not get hurt. And if someone did get hurt, I'd take care of them. And this was happening from when I was, I think, 5 or 6 years old, because I was always the oldest one, or I was always the most mature one, perhaps, if you want to say it that way. I was always the one that kind of took on the leadership role. And no matter how many kids were around me, I'd always be the one who would make them play with each other and make sure no one bullied anyone, make sure everyone was fine and safe, making sure that they crossed the street properly. And so normally from a very young age, I had 10, 15, 20 kids around me that I'd be taking care of as an older child, or as a mother, basically a mother figure. I guess that also taught me to be that person who's independent, because no one's going to take care of me. I had to take care of myself. And on top of that, I had to take care of all these other kids as well, or all these other people around me. The same thing with my family. I had to, in essence, be the caretaker, because when my parents fought, I had to make sure my siblings were fine. I also had to make sure my parents were fine, and things like that, right? Now, all of this to say that as an adult, as an INFJ adult, I look back upon my life and I think to myself, these are all the reasons why I turned out to be the person I am right now, why I'm so independent right now, why I don't need anyone or want anyone in my life, why freedom is one of my primary values, why having a lot of people around me kind of irks me a little bit because I know I have to take care of them. And all of those things I realize now has obviously its roots in my childhood. The reason I wanted to share this with you guys as about INFJ children and their strength is because, of course, even though we have all of this strength as children, or had all this strength, or have if you're a child right now, it doesn't mean that you don't actually need your parents around you anymore. A lot of times we'll pretend like that's the case. And if you have kids who are INFJs and you know that they're INFJs and they're very independent and strong, a lot of times the parental tendency is to just let them go, let them be on their own, do their own thing, and take care of themselves. But we have to also realize that we were still children and we still needed help and support. A lot of times we didn't get that because of the fact that we were so independent and strong. So everyone assumed, yeah, she can take care of herself. She doesn't need anyone. And most of the time, my parents or the caretakers around me or the caregivers would focus on the other kids because they needed more support. They needed more help. They were the ones who would cry more, or they would need more support in general. And for me, I didn't. I was independent enough and strong enough that I could take care of myself mostly. And so they would let me go on my own and do my own thing, which is kind of lonely at times. And a lot of times I think that's the reason I have issues of abandonment and trust and rejection issues, because of the fact that I was left alone to do so many things on my own. Not intentionally. Of course, that was one of the things that made it happen, was my personality. I behaved that way. I behaved like I didn't need help. Even still now, I do the same thing. I behave like I don't need help. When, of course, I'm not an island, and no matter how strong you are as an INFJ or as a human being, you need people around you. You need people to support you. You need people just to vent to. You need people just to be around you all the time. Not all the time, but some of the time. Just because you are a human being with needs, desires, and needing support is just a normal human behavior. And just because we are extremely strong doesn't mean that we don't need that, although we come across as that. And so if you have INFJ children, I really implore you guys to not let your INFJ children, just go off on their own and do things all the time on their own. We do still need support, even though we come across as we don't need that much support as other people might, obviously. And so a lot of times you can let us roam free, and we would like it if you let us roam free, because we're so we need freedom as one of our primary values, even as a child. But we still are children, and we need you guys to remember that, and we need you guys to support us as much as possible. So in our dreams, our desires, our compunctions, our thing that we do, we roam around on our own, we still need to come back to a safe, supportive environment at home and have parents that will listen to us and take care of us. That is absolutely paramount. It does not mean just because we're so strong that we don't need that anymore, right? I hope this makes sense. If you guys have INFJ children, or if you're an INFJ parent, I'd love to hear from you guys. I'd love to hear how you guys deal with your INFJ children, or how do you guys support your INFJ children. And I just find it so fascinating because I never had this kind of network to talk to when I was a child. I didn't even know what INFJ obviously meant at that point, or if I was an INFJ. I only learned about this stuff 4 or 5 years ago. So I think there's a big chunk of my life that I wish I'd known all this stuff. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know what you guys think of this video, obviously, and what you guys thought of what I iterated. And if you guys have any examples that you want to share with me as well, I'd love that. If you guys have any questions about this video topic or any other topics that I've done, please message me anytime. All of my contact information is in the description below. Again, I'm so grateful that you are listening, watching, and subscribing. I shall see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.